I wouldn't be running for Congress if these were normal political times. I haven't run for political office since student council in 8th grade. What gets me to doing what is not part of my life plan is that I see our country as being in a crisis as grave as any has ever faced. That the soul of America is at stake right now. And I feel duty-bound to do whatever I can to try to turn the present political dynamic around, because it is destroying so many of America's finest characteristics. Our ideals are being trampled, and just as my father's generation had to put their lives aside and make sacrifices to meet the threat from fascism from abroad back in the 1940s. I feel that our generation is called upon to do whatever we can to meet this threat, which I think is just as serious in its way. What I'm talking about is an educational campaign, and that hits the nail right on the head. We as Americans are a community of people. We share something. In spite of the fact that the Republican Party has worked for some 20 years to make their followers believe that liberalism is something foul and un-American, even though it's half the heart of America. I mean, the liberalism of today's Democratic Party is continuous with the liberalism of Franklin D. Roosevelt and the Great Society and the various things which have been accomplished for several generations. So this is like generations of Americans. Half the country has been behind liberalism and have found in it a spirit, an idea, a concept of us being in this together, which people are free to disagree with. But to treat it with contempt is to treat with contempt part of the heart of America. And it is also to trample on the ideals of our founders, who said that the voice of the people will express itself in different ways, and all of these different ways have legitimacy. Now, today's Republican Party manifests something which is not the Republican Party of Eisenhower or of Goldwater or Reagan. I think that something which flowers up and for a short time isn't necessarily due the respect, but conservative values goes back to the Federalists, to George Washington and John Marshall. This is a part of America which is also part of its heart. Liberals are obliged, I think, to treat that with respect. And conservatives are obliged to treat the principles of liberalism also with respect. And we as a community have to have a constructive, honest dialogue about how do we combine these different points of view into a higher wisdom. Right now, the conservative part of America has been seduced. They are being led astray by people who have no principles. And it is up to us liberals not to defeat that force. We really have to fight them and defeat them. I am really frustrated with Obama's presidency and his style of leadership that continually reaches out a hand to people who have only struck at it and bit it, who have made it clear from the beginning that their chief goal is to make him fail, to turn him into a one-term president, which in itself should have been treated as a disgrace. There is a force that needs to be defeated. But our fellow Americans, the conservatives, the good conservatives of the Shenandoah and Roanoke valleys, these are people who are our fellow citizens. They are decent folks. And we do need to enter into a dialogue to help them see that the best way of protecting their actual conservative principles and ideals is not to keep on supporting what this Republican Party has become. It is to either abandon that party and vote for somebody like me, or if they can't pull the lever for a Democrat for reasons of habitual animosities or aversions, fine. Just tell the Republicans to clean up their act, to work together to achieve our common goal. That's the American goal. That's the American ideal. That's what our founders had in mind for us to do. This business about trying to make a president fail, this business about dividing people against each other, that's not the American way. This campaign isn't just about me trying to get elected to Congress. More than that, it is about all of us talking about the elephant in the room in every way that we can, spreading the word. I want people to understand that anybody, anywhere that is talking about the elephant in the room, whether it's standing up at work when somebody says something and speaking the truth that needs to be spoken, even though that sometimes feels risky and awkward, or giving a gentle word to a neighbor that you like but has been listening to sources of information that you know, or giving them a false picture of what's going on, or whether it's writing a letter to the editor in the newspaper, or whether it's writing to your representatives in Congress, including the president, and saying we need you to stand up and fight the fight that needs to be fought, or it's writing to the media that have been acting like these are normal political times and ignoring one of the major stories in American history, or whether it's recruiting other people to do some of those same things. All of those I regard as part of what my campaign is about. And whether the people want to attach themselves to me, I mean, I could use help of all kinds, and that's great. And that's helping to advance this talk about the elephant in the room. Or if they don't feel like getting involved in my campaign, any of those other things I regard as part of my campaign, part of what my campaign's supposed to be about. We've got a nation that needs to be saved. And I believe, and I think we saw it in the streets of Madison, that there is a lot of tinder out there that can be lit by a flame. And the issue is, do we have the ability to get the sparks out there and light the tinder? All over this country, there are social networking media, the things that I post on the web. I hope other people will send out to other people around the country. We have a capacity to get something going, and I don't think that I don't think that there's any other way that what has to happen is going to happen other than for us, the people, to rise up and make it happen. I think if we just leave it to the media to tell the story, they're not going to tell the story. They've had plenty of time to do it, and they've ignored it. If we just leave it to the Democrats to stand up and fight, I don't think they're going to do it unless we make them. Unless we tell them, you want our support, that's what you got to do. And as for the Republicans cleaning up their act, I think that they got to be put in a position where either they clean up their act and act like the responsible members of the American democracy, or they have to have that choice of doing that or being discredited and repudiated by the American people. If we don't make those things happen, if we don't force upon those major elements in the American power system those choices, they're not going to happen, and we're going to lose this country. That is my conviction. We have it all on the line right now. The American middle class is being hollowed out. People's lives are getting hard. There's a generation coming up that can't find jobs, and when they find jobs, they're finding jobs that are not at the level of their parents could find. This is a process that we need to arrest. We have a political system that hasn't been able to have an honest and constructive discussion of any issue for 10 years. And we are like a boat on the rapids without a rudder, banging against the rocks, being damaged. And if we can't get a political system that's capable of giving us the proper guidance, like we've had for most of our 220-year history, we, our children, our grandchildren, are going to pay the price for our not having fought and won this battle.